This week on One Day Leader, our contestants question the protesting culture of our country.
Good afternoon, sanibonani, and a warm welcome kuninonke emakhaya namkelwa yiyo ke intombi yakwamtimanze umashongwe khona la ku One Day Leader. I hope you're ready for your dose of engaging and thought-provoking content at its best. We're talking about all the issues that are affecting you, Mzansi. Ngakho-ke make sure that you stay with us. Now, South Africa has earned itself a reputation of being the protest capital of the world. Ngamanye amagama, we have one of the highest rates of public protests emhlabeni jikelele. Our protest culture is simply driven by issues of poor service delivery, economic inequality, corruption, labor issues, and of course, perhaps a lack in confidence in our leadership. Now, from September of last year, there's been an increase of a destructive culture of protesting, where we see protesters destroy and burn public property as an outcry for their voices to be heard. The sad part about it is that more than ever, this is resulting in the loss of lives. South Africa, we're now in 2017, and the same problems that the people were protesting about still linger on, not fully resolved. Could the reason be that as South Africans, we simply don't play an active role in changing our own situation? On today's episode, we ask you, as South African citizens, are we doing enough towards our own development? Nikumbule Makaya, you can join the conversation and share your thoughts on our topic by simply visiting our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA. Umutanda, ungasithola ku Twitter at One Day Leader, and that ever-growing hashtag is One Day Leader 5. Do keep us trending. All right, as we will kick it off with our first leader. As always, Anisa representing the Free State. Go ahead and give us your vision statement.
From the streets of Rwanda to a democratic South Africa, a leader's vision for social justice through education emerges. We can, we must, and we will. We can, we must, and we will ignite the spark towards the realization of our generational mandate. South Africa, I'm talking to you.
All right, so moving on to our second leader, Sakilo Asemtubane, hashtag Mr. King of Gom, your opening vision statement.
From the streets of Umlazi to the stages of the SABC, I believe in an open opportunity society where it is not where you come from that determines how far you make it in life. South Africa, we need change, so be the change.
All right, moving swiftly along, Mefro Longmon. The spotlight is on you. Your vision statement, please.
150 years ago was the Industrial Revolution, but today we live in a political revolution where young people are at the forefront. Why? Because to be young is something, but to be young and woke is everything. Hashtag we are woke.
All right, Sydney, our veteran, welcome. Your vision statement, please.
Let us work hand in hand at developing South Africa to become the utopia it rightfully is, where we drive regional and economic development by empowering young people. I can almost taste the South Africa of tomorrow today.
All right, with that, let's get a taste of what Lebu's vision statement is. Go ahead.
South Africa deserves a strong-willed woman to drive economic development and to serve with due diligence. If we can change our mindsets, we can change our lives.
And now on to our final leader, Tumile Mpofu. Go ahead.
I imagine a South Africa of radical economic transformation as postulated in the Freedom Charter as a way of addressing the injustices of the past and to alleviate poverty. A South Africa that empowers young people to live their lives tantamount to the motto, I am too legit to quit. Amandla.
A big thank you to our leaders for their varying vision statements. Now, last week you voted, and I'm sure you're absolutely dying to find out if your favorite leader did indeed make it to the top. Well, let me not talk too much and allow the numbers to do all the talking.
This week's viewer scoreboard has Ritabile leading the pack at 965 votes and Anisa as the last person on the list at 112 votes. This means that Ritabile gets 1 point. Congratulations. Now let's take a look at our series scoreboard. Lebumpela is still leading with 6 points, and trailing behind with 3 points each are Anisa, Sakile and Ritabile.
Now, you at home, remember your votes do count and will eventually keep these leaders in the competition as we draw closer to our final episodes. And if you've never voted before, let's quickly take a look at how you can be a part of it all.
To vote for Anisa, SMS Leader 1 to 32672. For Sakile, SMS Leader 2. For Ritabile, SMS Leader 3. For Sydney, SMS Leader 4. To vote for Lebo, SMS Leader 5. And for Itumeleng, SMS Leader 6.
Well, between the year 2015 to 2016, there certainly was a rise of student protests all around the country. This has cost the country millions of rands. Hundreds of people have been injured as a result. South Africa, does it really have to get to this? Well, allow me to welcome our resident judges. Catherine Deboho, welcome. And as our guest judge today, we have the communications manager of an entity that is responsible for creating a positive image of South Africa to the rest of the world. Please let's welcome Sembile Ntombela from Brand South Africa. A warm welcome to you, Sembile, and thank you so much for making time to be on the show today. Let me quickly find out from you, this current protesting culture that we're seeing in our country, what kind of impact does it have on Brand South Africa and the brand personality that we're trying to portray to the rest of the world?
Undoubtedly so. You have mentioned that it does hamper the reputation of the nation brand, as we call South Africa, in the sense that what we do impacts on how the world sees us. So the recent protests have definitely hammered. We bled for a little while there during the protest. However, I'm pleased also to inform you and the audiences at home that we follow a number of research indices, and one would note the Nation Brand Index, which is at the forefront of how nation brands perform. And really, South Africa didn't do that bad. We actually moved from a position 38 to 35, funny enough, regardless of the challenges that we had at home. And for me, that's a motivating factor that we as brand custodians have to be the advocates of the brand.
During the Fees Must Fall protest last year, we lost at least 2 lives and many more from all the protests we've had over the years. I'll mention just a few, Mzansi. Ngikhuluma ngabantu abafana noThulani Sithole, Andries Tatane, and Celo Musantuli. And those are just only some of the lives that we've lost senselessly. Do we ever consider what lies beyond the names? Just last year, Benjamin Phehla, a young university student, was well on his way to graduating. He was a ray of hope for his siblings and his family. And now he is no more. Let's take a moment and find out more about his story. Good morning, leaders. Most major protests in South Africa often end in violence and fatalities. Do we ever consider the true cost of these protests? For your task today, you will meet Kevin Phehla. His brother, Benjamin Phehla, who was a final year ITC student at TUT's Soshanguve campus in Pretoria, accidentally died last year during the tertiary fees education protests. Now, Benjamin was a student activist who was pro-peaceful negotiations with both campus leaders and students. Today, you will need to come up with a campaign that will raise funds in honor of Benjamin's death. These funds will then need to be used towards continuing Benjamin's legacy and what he died standing for and believing in. Your task leader is Lebo. The onus is on you to guide and lead the team to successfully complete today's task. You're dismissed.
When Pearl delivered the task to us and I heard that it was about Benjamin, I almost broke down because it's something that's very close to my heart. Student activism is something close to my heart.
Yeah, guys, so I've
sort of divided the team into sort of 3 compartments, but obviously it doesn't mean that we can't sort of work together within those. But number 1, with the creative sort of fundraising, just creative thinking aspect, Sakile and Tabile, just with regards to sort of finding the best ways that we can sort of come up with that campaign. Number 2, there's a campus insight team, which is Anissa and Itumeleng, but more with regards to student affairs, SRC. So anything more that's within the serious aspect of the campus, I'd like you guys to hit that up. And then the family insight team is myself and Sydney. And then once we're done with that, then we can sort of join everyone together. Whilst you guys are still busy with the whole SRC thing, we want to deal with the students now. You understand?
5,000. Oh.
Yeah, the whole time.
Oh.
The whole time.
Benji ke ngwanaka wa bone.
Ke yana the first person ka mohara family o ileng a ba enrolled in a university.
Ngwaga ga wa ntlha ke motho na robala mo di piping mara mo dimula mo thusa for 6 months ba grant ba reng ke res le bazari ya nefsas. Ka September ke motho a ntletseng dieta ke la ntlha ke apara ditlhako tse pila. O rekile suti ya ntlha tlo mpontsha le mama. Ka tseno gona o ka re ke tla ba motho.
This year so ntse be a graduate e be motho a mathomo ka mo lapeng la ga phetla gore gone ba rona motho e leng gore o graduate ene motho a graduate go ba byang.
Ka di 17 tsa October ngwana o buile gae a ba tla re mama ka di 19 ke tla be ke ngola khoswa ka bofelo ke feditse ile ke amohelehile ke tlo sebetsa bjana mama ntwe a tsama le ntwe la re ke tlo ithuba ka go agela ntlo. Ke gare mama ke boela morago ke gopela gore le nthabedise but di 20 ngwana wa phone or mama o ke re ke nna ngere ke no go batho ba rasa o no strike se le sthobile hape.
Benji le motho e leng gore na believe gore free quality education is possible. Ba matcha from South Campus to North Campus. So ha fitla mola wa ba ile re tsentse ke engage le ena ke ngwana go gae re bolela gore man okay yeah no this is it is the right thing. Era go ntle mola ke re ke a boa e re ke tsena ka mo gare ka mo ke go financial office mola ke re something ke e ke re ke a boa ke khatlantsa ke a comrade a re Benji o thutse go le ka rasa mo go yena a wa ga ke fitla mo ke re ke the exact thing e tsa hetse ka mo tshwara a le too shaky ambulance ya tla ya re tseya a wa ka re ke no e re ke no ba le kholofelo ke re ke phone le mma go gae ke mo tsebise.
Cecilia Sanchosha ke yona phone from Hosia Petla a rapedisa accident again Benjamin o thusi ke koloi
ke re mama e ke nako la rapele thata motho ka mogwe ke mona ka teng hawa go tshosa go tla a short doctor o tla mona mpotsa abuti pelo e eme ke re awa bjang awa ke ba in a situation mo e leng gore ga ke sa ba
go phone monna o rile ke ena doctor mara ha mbotsa lebitso a re mama ne re go botsa gore re paletswe.
That was the most difficult time for the entire family, more especially for me that side. I was experiencing those things.
Ditshepišo na re tshepišitše tsona tsotlhe namile di fetše.
Right, Mzansi, now what you just saw are the realities behind these fatalities. Benjamin and his friends were protesting for a worthy cause, but one which may take long before it's fully attained. Could there have been another way for them to voice their concerns that would not have led to his death? Well, join me after the break as we further explore this issue. Ang kinig na One Day Leader. Our protest culture in South Africa is said to be one of the most violent and destructive in the world as citizens demand that government attend to their immediate needs. Eqinisweni kodwa ngiyabuza ukuthi ngabe uhulumende unawo yini the capacity to provide for all these needs immediately? Hence, we ask today, as South African citizens, are we doing enough towards our own development? Singathanda ukuzwa imbono yenu, ngakho-ke please visit our Facebook page, One Day Leader SA, to share your thoughts on the topic. Also, Muthanda, you can check us out on Twitter. That's at One Day Leader and hashtag One Day Leader 5. Now, let's take a look, Mzansi, at how our leaders handled their task this week.
The importance of meeting Kevin is very high. It's a very high importance because of the fact that we are going to be able to see Benjamin in the eyes of his brother and get a closer interaction then. Because a task like this requires us to remove ourselves from it and really focus on Benjamin. It's his legacy, it's his honor.
If you were to give 5 good character traits about him, what would they be?
Accountability, liability, trustworthy, man of peace, man of his word.
We are going to have a banner where we want a hashtag to trend, which asks that, what does Benjamin mean? So to other people, Benjamin might mean free education, might mean hope, might mean peace, you know, and then people have time to also write on that banner what Benjamin means to them, you know, and also have it trend with other people throughout, also telling us what Benjamin means to them.
Number one, as you know that Benji is not someone who's self-centered, one who cares the most about himself. He was using NFSAS, but his meal allowance was not meant for him only. He would share it with everyone. So automatically, in each campaign that you're going to bring forth, it must not be a campaign based on the family only or on Kevin only, but let it be on all students because he died for all. When my mother projected Benjamin to the university, what she expected the most was to see his child wearing the gown, the last gown, the last uniform of the study times, undergraduate. So the biggest hope that the man said to my mother, or made my mother to hope for, was that his son is going to build him a house. Then that didn't happen. He ended up in this situation. The march had to take him away from us.
So when Kevin spoke about Benjamin, I think you could tell the emotion behind it. So obviously it's something that's still very real to him.
More than it being a very sensitive issue, we really felt it. It was quite sad hearing it directly from him. We've got 2 things to play around with. 2.3 for Benji, as well as Benjamin means. So that all the messages around, they can go around the whole Benjamin means thing.
Rapenta mani masiling arona e repentanki hashtag 2.3 for Benji. Now 2.3 ka ba ka la re ke motho hloka etseng eno re ne se ana le 23 years.
So re fetsa fika mo social nguve re tlo kopana le Kevin and then he's going to take us around the area.
Se re skopang gona no go re fela o no re sa populeng e leng gore the accident happened.
Ebe I'm somehow nyana. When it came in a way, it was more like a shock. I don't know if I'll be able to cope, but I hope to cope. But today's going to be the first time I go there.
The walk itself was, I guess, we kept quiet because we wanted to make it a silent commemoration or remembrance moment type of thing.
Once we got there, like, you could imagine the extent of the accident. You could imagine how badly he was hit.
I became very emotional. It took me back to that time in 2007 when my brother was hit by a car and it was so bad. But luckily for him, he managed to survive. But what about that one, Benjamin, who didn't manage to survive.
We have a banner that side. We're getting the student community, the community at large to sign messages, what Benjamin means to you and stuff like that. So I wanted to know if you'd be interested in doing that.
Yeah, we are very interested because Benjamin was a kid that we were close to and we lived with him, and he was our leader after all, so we are much interested.
Okay, were you part of the protest last year?
Yes, I was part of the protest, and also I happened at some stage to live with Benjamin in South Campus.
Yeah, so we just need you guys to write what free education means to you, what Benjamin means to you, like fees must fall in general. As a young person, now you're trying to make it as well, like those protests, what do they mean to you? So go ahead, even sign your name, say you pay your respect.
I had flashbacks. So today was really the first time for me to be there, and then I was so connected with him, and I felt that closure. And for me being here, it meant a lot. Now I'm able to cope, move forward. I found that particular closure I've been looking for.
Mzansi, now what we just saw is an example of active citizenry. While still dealing with the issues at hand, our leaders were able to rise above and encourage people to be as much a part of the solution as they are in voicing out the problems. Masbuye Dola, we continue delving a little deeper into the issue as our judges will judge our contestants on how they performed on their task. Gasugile Ndao.
Brand SA and One Day Leader have started an initiative aimed at encouraging young people to play their part in making Mzansi great. The initiative salutes and appreciates young people who are making a positive impact in their communities. Moreover, the One Day Leader alumni also encourages young people to play their part.
I want to say one really important, personal identity, right? When you guys saw me, you saw, okay, Nangumlungu, right? Because that is my unique personal identity.
Welcome back to One Day Leader Mzansi, where we debate thought-provoking issues that affect all of us as a country and as a nation. Now, before the break, we saw our leaders tackle the issue of protesting in Mzansi when they visited the township of Soshanguve. Now is the time for our leaders to debate the issue at hand, and the topic for the day is, as South Africans, are we doing enough towards our own development? But before all of that, let's hear what our judges have to say. Catherine, I'd like to come to you and ask you whether you think South Africans are using their voice in first a creative manner and in an effective manner, just in how they protest.
I think that South Africans in general are very creative and innovative people. I think that we really do have unbelievable skills to be creative, but we don't extend them outside of creative spaces. We need to take that creativity and innovation into spaces such as protest, dialogue and debate. And we need to find better ways to be able to allow our voices to be heard.
I'll now come to you. Would you please give us the verdict on how you thought our leaders performed on the task?
Well, we've been disappointed over the weeks of how you performed in tasks. And this week, we're actually happy at how you performed in your task. Well done. You provided great leadership. All of you worked well in a team. Not all of you can be leading at the same time. You know, some of you have to be good followers. That's what makes a good leader. So our verdict is that all of you are going to get 1 point. Well done.
All right, leaders, I certainly hope you'll continue this trend throughout. Remember, leading is not just about being the leader, it's also about listening and sometimes learning to be a follower. But thank you so much for working so well on that task and ensuring that you're keeping a cohesive nature within the group, right? It debated your gala will be between Sakile and Anisa Namhlanje. This is always the part that gets a little difficult, that tests you beyond just ordinary circumstances. Sakile, Anisa, you know the rules by now. You have 30 seconds to give us your opening statement, 60 seconds to debate, and of course, 30 seconds to then conclude. I think I'll start with you, Sakile. Your opening statement, please.
So we cannot talk about development on a personal level without talking about self-actualization as being the mechanism to achieve this, right? So we tell you that self-actualization is the realization of the fulfillment of one's talents and potentialities considered as a drive or a necessity in someone's life. And we cannot speak about this without three fundamentals: the environment, culture, and utilitarianism. What do I mean by the environment? The one the government provides, culture that perpetuates within society, and utility.
All right, Peli Liskati Sakile, you now have 60 seconds to debate.
Can you please elaborate on the environment that the government provides as state?
All right, so the government provides or needs to provide an environment that is conducive for people to actually self-actualize, right? They need to give opportunities. They need to provide businesses with a sort of opportunity and an environment so that that society ultimately develops. And what we find is that government is doing this and is doing this relatively well. We have, for instance, organizations that come and motivate people to achieve and sort of self-actualize, which is what the point of today's debate is. In terms of culture, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, the culture that we have in South Africa is a culture of people who want to up their living standards, who want to participate.
Sakile,
and I think that that's a very positive thing in society.
Can I just ask you, with regards to culture, do you think that the South African citizens have adopted this culture of protest? Do you think it's a healthy one or it's an unhealthy culture that was adopted?
So we can't look at a single protest that maybe turns violent and condemn entire protest cultures, right?
All right, your
I think
time
these
is up,
are very
Sakile. You now have
necessary.
30 seconds to conclude, please.
There is no question in the question we're questioning here today. If we are to develop as a society, the three fundamentals need to work in cohesion. We need a government that provides an environment for our citizens to thrive. We need a culture within our citizens to be active within that environment. But certainly, we need to, as a society and as a collective, come together and value utility, because all our happiness and each and every one of us needs to play a role, and that is important. And it is that that provides the change that we all need. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Sakile. Anisa, your time starts now.
No political democracy can survive and flourish if the mass of our people remain in poverty, without land, without tangible prospects of life. Attacking poverty and deprivation must therefore be the first priority of a democratic government. A riot is the language of the unheard. They say that we need to be rich in order to access higher education. We say away with these tendencies, asina mal. They say that we should stop the militarization. We tell them to stop the militarization of our campus, but they bring in more forces. We say away with police brutality, away.
Your time is up, Anisa. 60 seconds starts now.
So you've said literally nothing, but what I want to know particularly is, how does that link into the topic? How are South Africans on an individual level not developing? How are they not developing themselves or within a society?
Sakile, when I spoke about protests, I was focusing in more on the institutional part. So when we talk about development, we speak about students demonstrating this. So in order for students to show them, in order for students to develop themselves, they take to the picket lines. And while doing this, they are faced with harsh reality.
How is burning the Howard College library something that is like progressive?
Right. I will not say that burning a Howard College is progressive, but I would say, how do you demonstrate your need or your want for education, and what happens when this is not heard? What further steps do you take? Of course, I'm not for burning of buildings, but what more do students have to do?
All right. So, like, how do you self-actualize within that situation?
How do you self-actualize in a situation?
Time is up, Anisa. Your closing statement.
Imagine waking up one day only to find out that your home, your land, and your entire existence was erased. This is the fate of South Africans, 22 years into democracy, and this is still the reality that is faced. Black South Africans have inherited the remains of apartheid, and division of the past will never be healed unless this issue is resolved. We look at Benjamin, for example. When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes the duty. Benjamin, we shall fight for you, and we shall take off from where you left.
Thank you very much. It is an emotional subject, an emotional first debate. I'll throw it to our judges right now. Catherine? Your response to that?
I must be honest, I do think that as a debate was quite weak. I don't feel that you debated with each other. There was almost a stalemate because no one was going to say anything, and Sakile just jumped in and said something. I know both of you can do so much better. Anissa, I want you to have the confidence we saw last week with your debates and with your presence on stage. You need to be strong enough in whatever it is that you're arguing that can become a reality. You need to bring to the table tangible solutions.
All right, thank you very much to our judges. Now for you at home, the voting lines have officially been opened and will only be closed on Thursday. You can continue voting for your favorite leader by simply SMSing the word leader and their number to our SMS line, which is 32672. Nikumbula, your votes will then be revealed at the top of next week's episode. Masbuye Dolo, we get on to our next round of debate teams. Ninga Indao. Welcome back to One Day Leader. We're still discussing whether we as a country need to find alternative ways of addressing our immediate needs. Just last year, Mzansi, the country saw over 20 schools being torched or severely damaged in Vuwani, Limpopo. To add to this, we also saw an alarming spike of service delivery protests. But do these protests, violent or not, do they actually bring about any significant or measurable change? Our next debaters are Lebu and Ritabile. You'll be taking us through. Ritabile, you'll be going first. You've got 30 seconds.
Our democracy rests on 3 pillars: participation, representation, and service, right? So what we see is that we need to have, our people are participating with regards to this democracy. We are voting and we are selecting which municipalities we want to see in power. Also, when it comes to representation, we need to see that our leaders, once they get up there, they represent us and our needs and our concerns. Because if a government does not adhere to people's needs, there will be retaliation.
Thank you very much. 60 seconds starts now.
I hear you mention participating in votes and so on, but how is that helping us so far if we still keep on protesting? What has changed?
Yeah, it is because we need a better government. That's why I'm talking about representation. So once government gets up there, it needs to have to give us service delivery.
We as citizens do enough to make sure that there's sufficient development?
Yes, let me answer you on that. So as citizens, we are voting, right? As citizens, we are attending community forums. And as citizens, we are actually letting our voices being heard. What's not happening at the end of the spectrum is that government is not the one delivering. Government is not the one that's actually attaining to our needs.
But is it effective? The way in which we are communicating with them, has that been effective thus far?
We are marching. We are having protests. We have had
apart from the protests, I'm talking about back to the voting, back to the whatever meetings we're having on communal levels and communities. Is that effective enough?
It is effective enough because what you see is that people are willing to die for their needs to be adhered to by government. So it is enough. But then what's not happening is that government is not hearing.
All right, Tabile, now have 30 seconds to conclude.
So what we have to understand is that before we look at the protest culture only for our country's development, our country is led together by government, communities, and the private sector. There are a lot of stakeholders that are in play when it comes to our country's development. But what we need is a better government. We deserve a better government that adheres to our people's needs. Why? Because it's a government for the people, by the people. Thank you so much.
All right. Lebo, it is now your turn. You've got 30 seconds.
SA has been dubbed one of the highest protest cultures in the world. Before anything, let's establish one of the main roots behind protests: economic inequality. We protest for issues around land and housing, jobs, free higher education and low service delivery. As people, what can we do to ensure that we actually grow within our economical sphere? One solution is through the provision of quality jobs to lessen the public reliance on the government. Small businesses are the engine for economic growth and job creation. Let's nourish this avenue.
We now have 60 seconds.
All right. So you're saying that we need quality jobs and we need to have people that are more active in the economic sphere. So how do we do that under your policy?
As an entrepreneur myself, I can tell you now that I'm fully aware of the possibilities that come for growth and development in the sort of the sphere of creating jobs.
But let me ask you this: does our government encourage entrepreneurship?
So but now what I'm saying is that even if the government does give us policies where we can get funded, there's NYDA, there's many policies.
Is that enough?
Given,
is that enough?
But are we doing, how many entrepreneurs do we have that are actively going out there, seeking to write business plans, seeking to find out what the issues are in their community? It's not about having a big business. It's about finding the issues.
If you don't have proper education,
no, it's about there's seminars, there's workshops. It's not about having money when it comes to business. I don't have business acumen, but I'm a business owner.
But
I don't have an acumen.
How do you draft a business plan if you're not even literate?
You can research.
We need government that attends to people's needs.
Thank you very much, leaders. We have 30 seconds to conclude.
Infrastructure.
There were tons of expectations at the dawn of democracy in 1994. However, the pace of development and service delivery has not happened as we had wanted to happen thus far. And the reaction to our unhappiness is expressed in the typical South African way, which is through protests. With life still divided in terms of wealth, it will be very hard for us to sort of get this culture eradicated. Us moving forward is to try and lessen the pressure from the government and find ways within ourselves, be proactive, find ways to create jobs, find ways to be more involved in the economic system.
Thank you very much, Lebo. That is where we will leave it. I'll now turn to our judges. Lebo, I'd like to rope you in here. We started off a bit of a slow footing with our first debate, and now our second one was just so fierce and so feisty. Your take?
I don't know why the audience was clapping, because you didn't deserve even one clap. Rethabile, this is not the first time you find yourself speaking over another person. When you start to interject, it's good, because you're owning the space. But then when somebody tries to respond to you, you want to speak over them. And I unfortunately, I'm going to say you need more emotional intelligence. You need to work on that. A lot of us need to work on emotional intelligence. You're a very intelligent young lady, but emotionally, you need to keep it under control. Be rational and listen to the person you're debating with. So in order for you to be convincing, be logical. You know, progress with your argument logically and be more persuasive. On the side of Lebo, I'll compliment you for how you described the problem. And then you came up with a solution, which is, you said that economic inequality causes the protests, and you'd like us to nourish businesses to create more opportunity. Logical, brilliant. So I think your contribution was very good, but do not get stuck in an argument with another debater. Rather let them argue by themselves and say, are you finished? And then you enter.
Our final debate is between Sydney and Itumeleng. Itumeleng, I'll let you go first. Your 30 seconds starts now.
No country can ever develop with its citizens not educated. Those were the words of Nelson Mandela, and I want to use them as the guiding philosophy for this. Now, protest activities themselves are a development because it shows that citizens themselves are taking over the willingness to participate unconventionally to the matters of the society. Free, decolonized, quality education is the matter here, and that's what needs to be addressed. However, with regards to development, we have been progressing further. Statistics shows that the proportion of South Africans aged from 20 and above.
You now have 60 seconds.
All right, so Itumeleng, you speak about free, quality, higher education. How do you respond to the fact that the average black South African earns 3,000 rands upon graduating? However, the average white South African can expect to earn up until 27,000 rands. Don't you think that that source of inequality promotes protest culture in South Africa?
Now, what promotes protest cultures also is part of the decolonized education, free quality education, which is what the people are taking to the streets saying that's what they want. So what we need to do is that we need to provide free quality education to our people. And when we do that, I'm coming to you. And when we do that, then we are empowering our people to dismantle the system that is isolating them, which is of economic disparities.
Beautiful argument that you're proposing, Itumeleng. However, as things stand now, our universities are autonomous. They dictate the terms on how they give funding, on how they are financed, and the Department of Higher Education can literally do nothing. And that is why we are always protesting. Has that led to any form of real development?
That is actually where the problem is.
Thank you very much, leaders. You now have 30 seconds to conclude.
Okay, the narrative of having education being privatized, that is where the problem starts. Now, what we need to do is that we need to have the state funding more into the education system. The question of where does the state get money? Money is there, but what we need to dismantle is a system of corruption in the government system where money is lost through unconventional manners and other ways that we can be describing. The local governments are also providing scholarships. Now what we need to do is that we need a more centralized system that can fund students in universities. And if we can do that, we are attending to the needs of our people in society.
It's now your turn, 30 seconds for your vision statement.
Out of 537 directors on South Africa's top 40 companies, 72% of them are white. Only 3% of the overall economy is in the ownership of non-whites, and the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Program benefits only 15% of the total population. How can we, as society, do enough when society in itself is so unequal and divided? Townships such as Bophelong, Zamdela and Alexandra dream of schools that are as resourced as the Hilton College. Our development potential lies
Thank you so
in
much,
the
Sydney.
upbringing
60
of our
seconds
townships,
starts now.
rural areas,
Sydney,
and
30 seconds is up.
So Sydney, how does, under your policy, how do you empower a child who's in Alexandra, Khayelitsha, who doesn't have the knowledge of even drafting a business plan to submit it to the government? How do you empower such a child under your policy?
All right, so there's a trending argument in South Africa at the moment that speaks about redistribution of wealth and taking back the land, you understand? So what we do, we empower the state to take ownership of the land, to take ownership of the wealth. And then what we then do, we invest extensively in enterprise development to see to it that people such as you and me,
and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm asking you, how do you empower the child who's in Khayelitsha? How do you empower the child who's in Gugulethu?
Exactly.
Who doesn't even know of all the opportunities that are available?
If the state is in total ownership of the wealth and of the land, it gives that child from Khayelitsha an opportunity to grow up knowing that in that particular area I'm going to be able to build a house.
Now, how do we get to that? How do we get to that point? That's
we
what
get
we want
to
that
that point by empowering the state to take ownership of all these state-owned enterprises that they claim they own, but in actual fact they do
let
not.
me educate on this one. What we need them to do.
Thank you very much, leaders. Sydney, 30 seconds to conclude.
My parents could never take me to a music school because when my father could have been a botanist and my mother a food scientist, they were forced to become educators and further expect salaries that disabled them from proving the worth of their craft. The state should remember that the opportunities that they and many others were deprived of are the ones they need to give to us. The problem we have with society today is because of the injustices of the past. If ever we're going to speak about real development, let real development be in the economy. Give the economy to the people.
It's not just the audience members that are clapping, but the judges themselves, which tells me that they were impressed with that. But I'll give our guest judge an opportunity to respond. How did you find our debaters and their debating skills and the issues that they touched on?
Look, the issues are very much valid. I think the argument was brilliant. I would speak to Itumeleng. Is it Itumeleng, right? I like how you tackled, because I saw what is Sydney. You sort of deviated from the answer, and I think I would caution that actually listening is quite a skill. But I do acknowledge Sydney's closing. That was a punch. That was a late baby Jack punch. It was really, really, really great. But really, I'm quite inspired by this this particular one.
Oh, fantastic. Inspired we all are. Let's hope Guti Nani Emakaya Kuningi Enikzuzile. As I take you to the ad break now, our studio audience will get an opportunity to have their say by voting for their favorite contestant this week. We will also find out how our judges scored our leaders. Stay with us. Welcome back to the final stanza of our episode of One Day Leader for this afternoon. Now I'm about to reveal what the judges had to say, but quick reminder, our audience members also had an opportunity to have their say and vote for their favorite leader. Before I get into letting you know who the winner is, I'm going to ask our resident judges to please give us their parting words. I'll start with you, Catherine.
I think it's really important at this stage of the game, when we are going into next week being episode 6, it's so important for you to up the game. You have had all of these opportunities to learn from the feedback, learn from each other, and the experiences through the activations that you have done as a team. you cannot disappoint us when it comes to this level of competition. We expect more from you because we know you're capable of more. So next week, we want you to redefine what you're doing here as young leaders. We need to see that fight, that hunger and discipline at this specific level of competition.
Thank you very much, Catherine Tebogo.
Well, I think I expected much more from you, and I thought you guys were listening as we were engaging, but clearly you were not listening. And the audience at home is now watching you and looking at you as our future leaders. What kind of leaders are you going to be if you can't even listen? Now, Sakile, you were very disparaging towards Anissa, saying that she didn't make any sense. There are better ways to debate with people. And Anissa, you should have told him, if he thinks he's not making sense, that it's because of his personal incredulity. Simple as that. He didn't understand it, you know, because it was not on his level, right? And so next week, we expect you guys to bring your A game.
Well, as usual, a big thank you to our judges for their encouraging feedback. Now, it is time for us to let our leaders know the winners of this week's debate. Okay, in our first debate, we saw Sakile and Anissa going head-to-head. The winner for that debate was you, Sakile. Well done. The next debate was then between Rithabile and Lebo. Congratulations, Lebo. Our final debate saw Sydney and Itumeleng going at it. Congratulations to you, Sydney. Well, congratulations to all the winners of our debates. But there's still that tiny little, you know, the cream on the muffin. We always want to know who the overall winner of the debate is, as voted for by our studio audience. I like to see the beads of sweat on your face. Congratulations, Sydney. You were voted as the favorite. Well, a big thank you to our audience members and our judges for their votes. Now let's take a final look at our scoreboard.
Our final score this week sees Lebo leading with 8 points and Itumeleng at the bottom with 2 points.
Well, remember, at home, we'll be showing your voting results right at the top of next week's episode. Voting lines will be closed on Thursday afternoon. Ngithanda ukubonga our leaders, our judges, our audience, and of course, Nanlaphe Makhaya for joining us for this episode. Ngeviki elandelayo, we'll be discussing yet another thought-provoking topic. Well, in the words of Meg Biram, you can't expect to see change if you never do anything differently. Babukeli sizivala kanjalo isiqephu sethu namhlanje se-One Day Leader. Asiphinde sihlanganeni futhi ngeviki elandelayo khona la ku-SABC1 Mzansi for sure. From all of us here, ayixabene.